Well, this is my FreeNas booting up. It has run flawlessly, probably too flawlessly for the past several months. But I'm sure you can hear. This is the first time I've heard a click of death like that from a Seagate drive. I've heard them on Western Ditch, but I've never heard it this loud or pronounced on the Seagate. But this was just literally perfect, hits a wall, bam, died. So, I was actually working on plans to build a second NAS for my more important stuff in case something like this happens. Thing is, this is the second time I've been screwed by a fault-tolerant RAID setup and potentially lost my stuff. I am going to be happy. I am not going to be happy at this bombs. But what bothers me is it looks like 2 drives have gone out, which means I'm up the creek. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for right now so I don't mess up the drives anymore. I got to do some figuring out here. Well, looky here. I'm up to no good. Here's the story. My file server is acting up. I had a hard drive die in it. So I borrowed a 500 gig hard drive, got the RAID rebuilt. Well, I got it to rebuild the RAID, and I can get to my stuff again, but the motherboard has bloated capacitors, and I'm getting some other hard drive related errors on it. So this morning I broke down and I bought 3 refurbished Western Digital black 1 terabyte hard drives from Newegg. Yeah, they're refurbished, but at 40 bucks each, I think it's worth the risk. So anyway, but the case I have is not the easiest to work on. It's kind of a cheap case. So I've got this Acer Veriton 460, I think. Yeah, well, the nameplate has gone off, but it's a Acer Veriton. Quite a nice looking case, if you ask me. And I really like, it's got these toolless hard drive inserts and plenty of spaces for hard drives. I really like that. So I can get some hard drives in here. And I was going to take the Asus motherboard out of this eMachine. And which I might add, this is not the original motherboard to this eMachine. This poor motherboard has seen more computer cases than a New York City hooker or something like that. This motherboard has gotten around. This is actually the motherboard I bought from UXW Bill. He had a Phenom 3 processor in it. I used the Phenom 3 to upgrade another computer, and now it's rocking a AMD Sempron, which for a Linux-based file server is perfectly fine for what I want. And aside from having some, I think this board will be perfect for what I want. It's got 4 gigs of DDR2 and 4 SATA ports, so that should do everything I want. It's got integrated video. I don't need anything fancy for video. This should be excellent for what I want. So, but this eMachine case doesn't really have room for hard drives. This Acer Veriton case does have room for hard drives, and it actually appears to be pretty roomy for just being a micro ATX case, so that's pretty good news. So I was going to try and move this motherboard over tonight. However, I would like to add some extra ventilation since I am going to be running 3 hard drives in this thing. I hope to boot this off USB or compact flash or something. So I went digging around in my computer junk room, and I found these rather nice professional grade Sun-On fans. However, I would like to install these before the motherboard goes in. But you can see right here, this has these perforated grills, which, while they do their job of protecting the fans and little kitty fingers, they're also rather restrictive. These Sun-On fans have this nice, not so restrictive grill with a nice layer of dust. These are probably gonna, both these grills are probably gonna get removed and ran through the kitchen sink first, but So I'd like to pull these out. However, and actually a friend of mine had the perfect tool for doing that. It was like an electrician's punch of some kind. But said friend is Louisiana, and I haven't talked to him in probably pushing 10 years. And as it was when he had it, it was borrowed. So I have used wire cutters and snipped these out, but I want to do a little better job than that. So I think I'm going to just put this project on hold for right now. Tomorrow I've got to go out of town to have a follow-up visit from when I had a root canal operation. And while I'm out of town, they've got a Harbor Freight tools over there. So I think I'm going to stop by Harbor Freight and see if they might have something for punching this out, or even a metal hole saw. We'll see what happens on that. But I'm really excited because, yeah, this is an Acer case and it's got a little bit of flex to it, but frankly, it's still a lot better built case than what I'm using right now. Okay, quickie update here. We got the Acer Veriton case. We've got the motherboard installed, power supply installed. In case you're wondering, this right here is a 8-pin to 4-pin adapter. This has an 8-pin power plug. Motherboard only has a 4-pin. So that's how you can get these all day on eBay. The only thing I have yet to hook up is obviously the hard drives, and yeah, they use one of these all-in-one jobbies. So I've got a couple ideas on how to deal with this issue, so we'll see what happens. It's not like an IBM where I can just cut it apart. It's got 2 rows, so a little more challenging, I guess. And I have nothing against just lopping this off and just soldering on some different connectors. I think there's a way to actually pull these out and just shove them in naked to the connectors, and I may do that too. Right there is the fan connector for the front fan, just barely long enough with a little bit of slack. So I do really quite like these front connectors. I really like the way those hard drives go in, though. They're toolless. So in a RAID, that'll be nice. So if I lose a drive, it'll be real easy to pop out versus that case I'm using now. Ooh. So the holes on the back did not come out very well. That one looks good. The grill is hiding lots and lots of sins. And it actually looks kind of neat, actually. But it was not a neat cut job. I could not find the punch I wanted. I ended up buying some metal hole saws, and unfortunately it kept catching on the perforations. I guess I should have saw that coming. Then here's the other one. Putting it on the inside would get in the way of the hard drives, so I put it here on the outside, and I had to trim this little, there we go, trim this little plastic thing off. It ain't pretty, but it'll work. And I broke off the power switch, so a little hot glue to the rescue. Let's see here. And actually, I could, in theory, flip this around and just solder the wires on. And since I'm not going to be using I'm not going to use the front USB either, but it's hooked up. And I'm not going to use the front audio because A, this is FreeNas, there's no need for it, and B, from what I told, this motherboard has audio issues. So you can see I put some electrical tape over it. So check this out. So now that the front is 100% completely in place, you can see it presses into the electrical tape, and it just looks like there's a delete panel there. So there's a top pro tip for you. Alright, I got the camera precariously balanced, but I had an idea. I managed to break apart that all-in-one Acer Veriton connector. And so now I've got these. But while I have hooked up wires like this before, just bare, I want to do things just a little bit neater than that. So I've slid some heat shrink over the wires, and now you can see it slid back a little bit to expose the copper, but that's not a big deal. Anyway, so now I'm gonna heat shrink up the rest of these and see what happens and get it hooked up. That's awesome, though. Looky here, my hard drives finally came in. These are actually OEM for Dell, but manufactured by Western Digital. I've got 3 1TB drives, and I believe that these are actually refurbished Western Digital black. In fact, they say right on them, Enterprise Class Hard Disk Drive. So anyway, I am going to... Right, where's the little open? Well, okay then. Usually there's a little notch there so you can tear it open, but there isn't. So... Ooh, these are cold. I'm probably going to install these, but I'm going to let them warm up a fair bit before I actually use them. That's part of the reason I picked this case, is because it's got the toolless hard drive mounts in them. I don't have to say why that's going to be very convenient. If a drive goes, I buy a new one, slap it in. And it'll be very easy to do without taking it down off the shelf. Let's see if this will... There we go, and like I said though, I'm going to just leave these in here for a little while to... Ooh. Well, I'd like to put this drive in this top, but I can't get an angle on it because the CPU cooler's in the way, so unfortunately it looks like the 3 drives will kind of have to end up being next to each other. This one is actually... Wow! That's a tight squeeze there. I didn't quite expect it to be that tight. Yes, you saw me just have to remove the memory so I could get a hard drive installed. Maybe I can go ahead and weasel it in. Nope. I would have liked to have put it in up here just to get a little more space between them, but oh well. I do have some pretty aggressive ventilation going in this case, so hopefully that will still allow enough airflow for them to not get too hot. Alright, go ahead and get this other stick reinstalled. There we go. Now I just gotta get some cables. One thing I made sure to do, because I've got 3 hard drives right here, I got 3 different colored serial ATA cables. That way, if one goes kaput, there we go, it'll be very easy to figure out which one's which, especially if I have to troubleshoot. So I'm just doing them just like this, from the bottom up. Actually, you know what? It would make sense to use this blue cable on the bottom. because of the rather cool right angle. I picked this case because of the toollessness, and I also like the fact that it was kind of small and compact, not to be confused with compact. Yeah, bad joke there, and I won't fully admit it. Alright. That's relatively neat, and should be easy to manage. Okay, but we got another problem. I can only hook up 2 hard drives. So I think I've got a Molex to SATA adapter somewhere. So I have to go find it. For whatever reason, I actually had one in my suitcase. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move this. Alright. I'm probably not going to turn this on for a little while because I want these drives to warm up. I mean, I'd probably be fine to turn it on now, but these drives are just, you know, ice cold. I mean, it's 19 degrees outside, and I just now found them on the front porch. So at least I got the right drives this time. First time I got the wrong drives, had to send them back, and that was a mess. But Newegg has made it right. Hoping they'd give me a freebie in the box of some kind. I've heard Newegg will do that sometimes, but they didn't. But I'm just happy to have my drives. Well, I've got the new NAS. The hard drives have installed and somewhat equalized. Equalized enough to where I was cool with setting it all up, going and putting them in, powering them on. So I'm doing that now. So anyway, it's booting up right now, and then I'm not going to show you how I configure my RAID, but it's going to be a RAID 5, and there are probably videos on YouTube that will show how to set this up a whole lot better than I could show you. So just use one of those videos, Google it, whatever, if you want to know how to set these up. But I'm just gonna set this up, and then wow, the studio's a mess. I got some clothes laid out drying there that I need to take upstairs. But anyway, the old NAS, yeah, this basement's kind of a mess. But the old NAS is going to go upstairs. I'm going to try and see if I'll boot up one last time and get the stuff transferred over to the new one. And if you notice a different truckling in the background, this is my dad's Chevy S10. We switched vehicles because actually tomorrow, as of the filming of this, my truck is getting a new headliner installed. So no more headliner sagging like a rapper's jeans. So anyway, I'll be so happy to get my truck back, because I appreciate my dad letting me drive it, but it is so uninspiring to drive, as Mike would say. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do run my furnace once in a while. By the way, this is the cable I use to hook up the Canon camera for when I do the Weasel show. Well, over on that very, very messy workbench, I've got the old FreeNas unit. Down here in the basement. And on the spin cycle computer, I've got the a folder of files transferring. Oh, the cords are in the way. SDAO. It looks like my replacement hard drive, which is, I think it's the one I just put in, might have been going bad. So, that's nice news. But anyway, as long as it hangs on long enough to get some of this stuff on here, I don't have to have all of it, but as long as I can get some of it, I'll be happy. Let's see here. I've got files for some old computers I don't have anymore, I don't need to keep, but I really need my music files and some of my old files is what I really want to get moved over. Everything else I can live with not moving over. But I'm using the spin cycle computer for a couple of reasons. It's got a decent processor for moving the files. However, it's down here in the basement and it hooks right into my main switch up there, which is that Hewlett-Packard 2626 PWR. And the nice thing is that the spin cycle computer has gigabit Ethernet and my file server has gigabit Ethernet. Problem is, the HP switch only has 2 gigabit ports and the old file server over there is only 10100. So that's not exactly a huge advantage for me, so that poor thing's going to be working its butt off while the spin cycle computer and the new NAS server are just going to be, okay. Alright, I'm good. Oh well. But hopefully here, once it warms up a little bit and I can stand to be down in the basement, I can clean up that shelf a little more. Hello. I'm actually in the other room editing this NAS for free video right now, and I didn't really close it out properly, so I'm filming a quickie, almost vlog style closing for the video. One thing I can say is I didn't realize how slow that freeNas had gotten until I put together this NAS for free. It is so much faster. The freeNas unit would just it would just take forever, even just going through folders, not even actually holding files, just going through them was slow. Just seemed to take forever, where the NAS for free is a lot faster. I'm not quite sure, it's probably just a combination of issues. I'm not going to split hairs and try and figure out, oh, was this or that. Who cares? That freeNas is going to get torn apart and taken to the recyclers. I've had too many issues with it, and as I stated earlier in the video, that motherboard has bloated capacitors. I'm just going to strip it for parts, scrap the rest. Anything else? I still don't quite have the permissions working the way I want them, but I can get to my stuff and I can use the server, and like I said, it is so much faster than that freeNas unit. Overall, I'm very happy with biting the bullet and doing this project. I think that's about all I need to say, so I'm going to just chunk this into a video and finish editing it up, and hopefully I can get this posted. Doing this, trying to post a video weekly thing is kind of an interesting challenge. And unfortunately, as of right now, I'm probably going to have to do that question mark thing again because I have no idea what next week's video is going to be.